This is a fun follow-up to a video we did yesterday about Taylor Swift's formal endorsement of Kamala Harris the night of the presidential debate, because last night, Taylor Swift dropped another devastating, potentially election-changing bombshell on Donald Trump, and MAGA Republicans are not handling it well. They are totally freaking out. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. Again, a fun follow-up that I was not expecting, but Taylor Swift has been absolutely brutal to Donald Trump, and we have to celebrate it. So as a palate cleanser, as a teaser, I want to show you the reaction of Fox News host Jeanine Pirro when she got the news that Kamala Harris endorsed the vice president, because she is one of many prominent MAGA Republicans who did not handle it well.
But the other thing about all this is what makes you think that the way you think should influence other people. You sing for a living. Just deal with that.
So again, there are many more clips to show you, but she's not handling it well. Jeanine Pirro, staunch ally and supporter of Donald Trump. I will say, of course, it's funny to hear Republicans complain about celebrity endorsements because they do it all the time. And yet when, an A-list celebrity, as crazy as he is, like Kanye West, endorsed Donald Trump and cheerled Donald Trump, Jeanine Pirro, Jesse Waters, Megyn Kelly, MAGA Republicans everywhere celebrated. So it's really not a principled stance. They just don't want celebrities to formally endorse or support Democrats. They're unprincipled, hypocritical losers. Well, Taylor Swift doesn't care what Jeanine Pirro has to say, or Megyn Kelly, or Fox News, and she dropped another brutal bombshell at a high-profile event that could potentially change the election. And I'm going to play this clip. It's possible, just to give you a heads up, you may not see this clip. This may be cut out because it might be copyrighted. So we're going to also look at an article describing it as well. But this is a clip of Taylor Swift at the Video Music Awards, a high profile, one of the highest profile music events in the country, publicly standing on stage in front of millions upon millions upon millions of Americans, either in person or at home combined. And she encouraged them to vote.
And the fact that this is a fan-voted award and you voted for this, I appreciate it so much. And if you are over 18, please register to vote for something else that's very important coming up, the 2024 presidential election. I love you all so much. Thank you for this moment. And the fact that
That is, again, Taylor Swift, the biggest pop culture icon in the world, and certainly in music and perhaps in the history of music, formally encouraging people to vote, register to vote. She doesn't even say vote for Vice President Harris, even though that is her preference, and even though she said that on a Twitter page. That is her formally suggesting to her supporters and to anyone watching who is over 18 to just go register to vote. And again, if that clip was cut, we'll just do this. There's an NBC article saying Taylor Swift matches Beyonce's record for total VMA wins and urges fans to vote. So we'll go down here. Swift endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris after Tuesday's presidential debate. It was a highly anticipated moment as speculation grew over whether she would continue to speak up about politics. And at the end of her speech, she reminded everyone of age to vote in the presidential election. She told followers on Instagram that she would be casting her vote for Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz. We went into that in a previous video, so we're not going to go in all the vivid detail here. Her endorsement, or rather her encouragement of people to register to vote, has yet again paid off dividends for voter registration. Before Swift's endorsement, a Tennessee poll measured her influence. Since Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris for president Tuesday night, federal officials said more than 337,000 people have visited vote.gov using the voter registration link Swift shared with her post. Recent polling in Tennessee suggests Swift's opinion could have a small but significant impact on how some of her fans vote. And this is huge. Remember, Taylor Swift does not need to mobilize hundreds of thousands or millions of people to go to the ballot box, although that would be great. Remember, the 2020 election was decided because of the Electoral College by 40,000 votes. A Taylor Swift concert, one concert worth of people in 5 swing states. So that 337, just imagine that half of them vote Democrat. And that was in one day, right? Half of that figure vote Democrat, and they live in swing states. A fraction of them could be outcome determinative. There's no guarantee that that's the case, but it's very possible. That's how influential she is. As a matter of fact, a Democratic surrogate made a pretty compelling case as to the importance of this endorsement. And again, we're going to get into other clips of MAGA Republicans freaking out about Taylor Swift's election-changing moves. But I wanted to play, I think it's Kurt Berdella. It's a really compelling case for why this particular endorsement matters and why Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans do and should fear it.
Is this endorsement, and granted, she has millions of followers, is it, though, actually going to move more Gen Z, more millennial voters to vote the same way as this superstar?
Yes. For most celebrities, I would say no. It's a non-event. It doesn't move the needle. But Taylor Swift has shown time and again that she is a needle mover single-handedly. When she puts out a link that says register to vote, that website gets 50,000, 100,000 new voter registrations. An election that's going to be, by all predictive models, including our own DDHQ, very narrow, one that will be decided by just tens of thousands of votes in just a handful of states. If she can get just 5,000 Gen Z voters, young women voters, to register to vote in each one of those swing states, that could be enough to make a sizable impact on the outcome of this election. And when you have the most viral entertainer in all the world, with one of the largest and most engaged followings in all the world, that is an arsenal that is in your favor that can be deployed incredibly effectively when we head into October. And the other side of that, too, is right now Donald Trump is picking a fight with Taylor Swift. Every minute that Donald Trump spends talking about Taylor Swift, talking about her fan base, talking about the consequences of her endorsement, that's one less minute he's spending fighting Kamala Harris, the person who's actually on the ballot.
Great points all the way around. He also made a really good point at the end of this interview by saying Taylor Swift could, in theory, have concerts in swing states like Pennsylvania, for example, free concerts, given that she's worth $1.3 billion, I believe. She could either have cheap or free concert where the way to get in is an active voter registration card. Taylor, if you're watching, and I know you are, please like and subscribe. I think Kurt's idea is phenomenal, and you should seriously consider doing that. So, again, we know not necessarily going to manifest this way, but potentially outcome determinative from Taylor Swift. And again, this is freaking MAGA out. We saw how Megyn Kelly reacted yesterday. We saw how, earlier in this video, how Jeanine Pirro reacted. They're going to continue to panic. And as MAGA Republicans are wont to do in their panic, they're probably going to make it worse because they're going to adopt a provocative posture. So I want to play you a couple of clips. And this one here from J.D. Vance, who was asked about the fact that he did very clearly inspire Taylor Swift to come out and formally endorse the vice president.
Endorsement of Harris and Waltz right after. She has 283 million followers on Instagram, and I'm sure that someone brought to your attention that she signed it "childless cat lady." This is a phrase that you are going to hear in your dreams and your nightmares probably for many years to come. How do you speak to women voters who obviously they care about what she thinks?
Of course.
So I should say, too, the childless cat lady comment, again, that is something that Taylor Swift included in her Instagram post formally endorsing vice president, as well as a picture of her and her cat. She owns a cat and she doesn't have children. And the childless cat lady reference is a reference to J.D. Vance's own anti-woman misogynistic rhetoric. Okay, so he is perhaps the single most important reason, the single biggest reason why Taylor Swift actually came out and is now putting her thumb on the scale of politics. So it's a great question by Martha McCallum, who, threw in there like, hey, this is going to haunt you. What do you say about that?
Of course. Well, look, we admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans. Look, when grocery...
You heard that correctly. That was J.D. Vance, a multimillionaire tech bro who is serving a cult leader who is a New York real estate billionaire celebrity who is also quite disconnected from the pains of most Americans and has, I was almost going to say a fraction of the empathy and sympathy and compassion that Taylor Swift exhibits to her fans and to everyday Americans, but that would be an overstatement. Donald Trump has no capacity for empathy and compassion and sympathy. He is a sociopath. But yeah, so a guy who is bending the knee, prostrating himself before a billionaire celebrity out of touch with most Americans is wagging his finger at Taylor Swift, which makes you wonder, maybe it really purely is misogyny. I should also say, getting into some unhinged reactions from the right, you also have Dave Rubin. We haven't talked about Dave Rubin in forever. Dave Rubin is a high-profile conservative commentator. He's widely seen as the dumbest of them, which is saying something. He also wanted to talk about Taylor Swift's endorsement. So we're going to play that. And he also makes reference to a weird, gross comment that Elon Musk made recently about Taylor Swift after she endorsed the vice president. So prepare yourself for maximum cringe and maximum grossness. And because it's Dave Rubin, maximum stupidity.
And then let's talk a little bit about how this fits into the pop culture part of this, because pop culture is a huge driver of the cultural narrative. Well, here's the tweet from Colin Rugg about the Taylor Swift thing, and we'll get back to it in a second. So as we referenced before, Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris on Instagram after the debate on ABC, proudly calls herself a childless cat lady. Elon Musk, who they hate, he saw that, and he wrote this: "Fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life." So he's mocking, he's exposing the ridiculousness, right? It's like, Taylor Swift, you are a young, pretty girl. Do you know what the gang members from Venezuela do to young, pretty girls? It ain't pretty. So what do we have to do?
Yeah, so again, that's a really weird, gross comment from Dave Rubin reacting to a weird, gross comment from Elon Musk, and both about Taylor Swift, in which Elon Musk seemingly suggests that he will impregnate Taylor Swift. Like, she clearly wants a baby. Fine, I'll give it to her. That's really weird and super nasty, but that's just goes to show the layers of unhinged with which Republicans are reacting to this endorsement. So listen, there were other clips I was going to play going back to Jeanine Pirro, but I actually am thinking in real time that might be a separate video. But folks, the reason I bring this up is, again, Taylor Swift repeatedly encouraging people to vote has scared the shit, pardon my French, scared the shit out of Republicans for years, since she actively started to speak out about politics going back to 2018. She has increased with regularity voter registration. That has been a cyclical thing. Every time Taylor Swift encourages people to register to vote, we see a spike due to her influence in voter registration. Now, of course, a couple of things. Voter registration doesn't necessarily mean Democratic voter registration, although it's likely the case. People are probably also registering to vote Republican or independent as well. And voter registration doesn't mean that people actually turn out to vote, right? That's another part of the process. But it increases the likelihood that all this happens by definition. And now that she has formally endorsed the vice president, the panic that MAGA Republicans feel about her has increased. And again, the reason for this video in particular was she went to the VMAs, the Video Music Awards, which is one of the biggest pop culture events in America, stood on stage in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people, and then tens of millions across the world, and encouraged people to register to vote, to exercise their civic duty. And right on the heels of a formal endorsement, of a formal request to vote, and now she's taking it and doing it on camera. This is back to back to back devastating blows against Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. And I can't wait to see more cope and more rage come in, because it will be quite sweet indeed. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.